I'll start with a shot one. Be me, at the beginning of summer. Go to this cabin owned by the family of a close friend to relax for a weekend. We goof around till night comes. Go to sleep and nearly doze off until bro gives me a nudge. Tells me he can hear faint screams outside the cabin. Dismiss it as a fox until he gives me another nudge and tells me to listen. I can hear what sounds as someone in pain screaming far away. Except I can't locate a direction, other than the sounds getting closer. Then they stop and the forest goes quiet again. Jokes with bro that his uncle, who wasn't in the bedroom near us, was killed and replaced by a fleshgate. The next moment a silhouette casually comes from the forest and enters the cabin. We hear his uncle entering his bedroom. Eventually we asked him what was he doing at that hour in the forest, and he says he has no idea about what we were talking about. That was the only time I heard the screaming in that forest. No idea who made them, other than his uncle. I got one. Be very young native boy, around 4 or 5. Live in woods not too far from reserve. Live in a house that has a ground level extension. Nighttime, maybe around 10 p.m. Parents and family members are all upstairs in living room. Get hungry and decide to go downstairs into extension where kitchen is. Shortly after entering the kitchen, see 2 white figures that appear to be children standing in middle of the room smiling at me. One is a boy and the other a girl, look like twins. Hair all over body, stands up and feel a sense of dread. Immediately run as fast as possible upstairs while screaming. Parents noticeably freaked out. Tell them I saw 2 ghosts downstairs. Parents do what they can to calm me down from the shock of what I've seen. Dad and uncle go downstairs to find nothing. Years go by and I learn that house and area around it is notorious for being super fucking haunted. That experience is clear in my mind like it happened yesterday, and it's always made me question if spirits and ghosts were real or not, because how else could you explain something like that? I've been told kids are more susceptible to seeing spirits, both good and evil, as my little brother saw something similar, except it was a black figure and seemed to resemble an old man IRC. Okay, citizens of /x/, maybe you can help me out with identifying something I saw last year. Be me, 27, driving box truck for work. 5 a.m, get out on road and cruise through the dark. 20 minutes pass and I'm just rolling at 75 miles per hour. See gray mass on side of road, looks like big dead animal. awesomionhatadog.jpg. Drive closer, see it's not a fucking dog. Big mass of light gray fur with what looked like a black or dark gray undercoat. 4 legs, each ends with what looks like a giant raccoon paw, with 4 fingers and a thumb with black claws. Torso ends in rounded bump, either it didn't have a head or it was bent back behind it. Long hairless tail, about as long as the body and all black. Tail, belly, legs, and feet, paws were black, everything else was the light gray color. Thing takes up entire shoulder of highway, pic related, is my amateur sketch of creature and paw. See all this in span of 3 to 4 second max, still flying by at 75. After I pass it, WTF to myself for a couple minutes thinking about what it could have been. Decide I'll get a better look when I come back this way in the afternoon. Afternoon comes, not there, someone must have moved it or something. What do you think I saw, /x/? I've never heard of giant possums before, but my mom has seen a giant boar before. I live in Central TX, so possums aren't rare here, but I've never seen one even get anywhere near that big. I had an encounter with a demon, archon, whatever malevolent force, about 2 weeks ago, and I was hoping someone with more occult/esoteric knowledge than I could shed some light on what I dealt with. Be me, sleeping. Having lots of dreams that night, which isn't rare but were more vivid than usual. In the middle of a vivid dream I'm transported to some completely different area. Suddenly I'm standing before a large pulsating gray mass. Closest thing I could compare it to is the stomach on the guy in Pickrell. There is an overwhelming feeling of dread and hopelessness present, and the gray mass is asking me to do disgusting things to it, specifically asking me to whip it and perform BDSM acts on it. Nervous and uncomfortable, I just stand there without doing anything. Wake up. Sleep paralysis, can't move, eyes are shut and laying on my stomach. Feel large something on back. There's a feeling like it's draining me, or feeding off me like a parasite. Whatever it is, it hurts really bad. In my fear, my Catholic upbringing kicks in. Start praying, Jesus I love you. Feel something like fire on my back, genuinely one of the most excruciating things I've felt. Keep chanting this until fire fades away after what feels like 3 minutes and fall back asleep. Wake up with a diagonal, rectangular laceration where I felt I had been attacked. Any ideas? I've dealt with paranormal stuff before, but this is the only time I'd ever been actually harmed. I think I grew up in a haunted house. This is one of my earliest memories actually. Trip fagging, since I'd like to make more posts in the future and compare the replies. Be me, 4 years old. Don't have my own room yet, sleeping in a kid bed next to my parents. Wake up in the middle of the night. My parents' room has a wardrobe with a large mirror kinda like Pickrell facing the bed. See a shadowy figure walk back and forth. Humanoid body, head like a wolf. This goes on for several minutes. Not scared, just confused, and trying to make sense of it. Eventually fall back asleep. I didn't think much of it at the time, but when I started reflecting about it in the following days, I was creeped out. This left me with a fear of mirrors that lasted until I was about 13. The rational explanations I have for this are either a nightmare or sleep paralysis, but a few other things happened at home in my childhood that make me wonder if there's more to it. I'm staying at my parents' at the moment for college break. I wonder if I'll be able to make sense of this stuff. That's BTW, an authentic Brabantian folktale. I heard it from my granny, though in a slightly different version, my granny's version. A farmer had a son that wasn't completely right in the head. The boy would steal, get into fights, molest girls, and it was even believed he had killed an old widow living alone in a cottage. The villagers would beat him up and he was forbidden from entering the town and the church. His father, who still loved his son, stopped going to church as well. As the boy grew older, he mellowed out somewhat, but the people still claimed he went out at night to cause mischief. One day, while going around at night, doing God know what, the devil appeared to him. He offered to drown away all his sorrows and pains and make him normal again, only he had to take a small girl and cut open her neck at the old oak in the forest. The boy kidnapped a small child from a nearby farmhouse and did what the devil instructed. The devil appeared to him and said, "Good, you have now taken the road of no return, before next midnight you will drown." The boy panics and next evening he goes to the local church. The priest first wants to turn him away. But after he breaks down sobbing, and explains everything, he agrees to help him. The priest and boy stay up the entire night in the church, praying and talking. For the first time in his life the boy genuinely confesses his sins. An hour before midnight it starts raining violently, like it has never rained before. The entire church is shaking. Suddenly the rain completely stops. When the priest's pocket watch shows it's midnight, the boy howls in delight. "Curse you and your church and curse Christ, I have beaten the devil." The boy then runs outside. The priest, after being dazed, follows him. Just before the priest walks outside he hears the bells of the city's cathedral in the distance. His pocket watch was off, just by a minute. When he does outside he finds the boy drowned in a puddle. Another fun story I got from my granny. One day, there was a farmer named Tunis. Tunis was a pig of a man, but with a good sense of humor, and everyone liked him. Everyone except the local sheriff. Every time Tunis went to the city market, the sheriff would be annoyed at the stupid jokes Tunis was telling him. This went on for 5 years, when one year out of spite the sheriff demanded Tunis pay an extra sheep tax for insulting him. Tunis got angry, grabbed the sheriff by the local and had to pay an extra fine. Angry, he decided he would get back his money, so he started thinking of ways to smuggle a sheep into the market, without paying any taxes. The first year he hid a sheep in a barrel, the sheriff found that one out. The second year he hid a sheep in a fake bottom on his cart, that one didn't work so well. The third year, he dressed up a sheep like his fat sister, but alas, that failed as well, and every time he had to pay a fine. Tunis, for the first time in his life, really started thinking, how could he smuggle a sheep into the city? This went on for months, until one day, he awoke laughing from his sleep. He was going to dress up the sheep, like a sheep. So, next season, he did just that. He arrived at the city entrance. The sheriff approached him, and immediately started searching his cart. Nothing in the barrels, no double floor, that's his fat sister's all right. The sheriff approaches Tunis and says, I see you have no more tricks up your sleeves, that is a tax for 12 sheep. No, aha, Tunis says, I have 13 sheep. The sheriff laughed, nice try Tunis, but that's not a sheep, that's no doubt your brother, or the neighbor's boy dressed up as a sheep. Tunis looks him in the eyes and says, no sheriff, you got to believe me, that's a sheep, I dressed up like a sheep in order to trick you. Yes, he says, I put a fake sheep's mask on the sheep, put a sheep's pelt on the sheep's back and put fake hoofs on the sheep. The sheriff looks him in the eyes and says, Tunis, this is really a joke, even I think is funny, you want me to charge you for an extra sheep so you can take legal action, don't you? No sheriff, Tunis said, I swear that is a sheep dressed up like a sheep. Right, and those aren't 2 legs hidden below the tarp there, those are fake legs, right? Now you are a very smart man, sheriff, but those are really 2 fake legs under that tarp, and I am telling you, this is indeed a sheep dressed up like a sheep. The sheriff grumbles, he has had enough. Tunis, he says, you will pay a tax on these 12 sheeps and not a sheep more. Well, all right, sheriff, if you insist. So when Tunis got to the market, he called all the farmers together. He boys, guess what, I finally was able to smuggle in a sheep. Everyone looked at him in surprise, and him how he did it? Simple, I just dressed up one of the sheep as a sheep, and the sheriff, though I was fooling him, I literally outright stated that it was a sheep dressed up like a sheep, and he didn't believe me. That same Tunis and the sheriff were called to the mayor's office for a quick talk. The mayor promised he would prosecute if Tunis stopped his practical joke. Tunis agreed, for he had won over the sheriff. Watering plants. Hear a shifting sound. Look up at neighbor's house. Paper-thin entity crawls in between the foundation and wall. Look at the place it went into. It is completely sealed, impossible for it to enter.
Like, share, subscribe, and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Green Text Stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.